Hey y'all, this is Ryan Monso, and this is the Talking About Them Cougars podcast from GoCougs.com and HOUNIL.com. So we're doing this all new. We did an audio version only of the Go Cougs Talking About Them Cougars podcast before COVID. We stopped it, never really got back to it, but we're back to it and we are on. We're gonna follow this whole basketball season, behind the scenes, stories you never get to hear anywhere else. We're gonna get it to you. Check it out on YouTube or any streaming podcast sort of thing that you use. I don't know the word. So this is all basketball all the time from here on out, with one exception. We're gonna talk a little football later in the week, but frankly, right now, you need a break, I need a break. So basketball, this team is number one in the country. Number one in the country. I'm looking right at you. Right. Number one in the country. I was 4 years old the last time that happened. I didn't know anything about the Houston Cougars. But for the people that have lived through this, that have experienced all the downs of the mid to late 90s, the 2000s, and have seen this resurgence and the building blocks and stepping up and winning a game in the tournament and getting to the Sweet 16, making the Final Four, the Elite Eight run. I can't imagine what it's like for y'all to get to this point. Number one in the country. It doesn't make any sense, right? But here we are. So this podcast is gonna be about basketball. We're gonna follow this team all over the country. We're gonna give you the ins and the outs. We're gonna have player interviews. We're gonna have coach interviews. We're gonna have former players, analysis, commentary, and hopefully some laughs, some information, and a lot of fun. We're gonna go straight into it. Our senior foreign affairs correspondent is ready with some information for us now. I believe he's in France. And that's our senior foreign correspondent, Galen Robinson.
That is funny, man. That is very creative.
Yeah. Well, you're in France, right? What's the temperature?
Absolutely.
Fahrenheit.
It's probably about 40 degrees. 40 degrees.
No, thank you. And people may not understand. So Galen Robinson is with us. He's the godfather of Cougar basketball. And I wanted him here. He's helping us with HOUNIL, of course. He's helped us with a lot of videos. But I kind of wanted to bring him on and talk about where this program is all of a sudden. And I guess in your point of view, it's not all of a sudden. This has been going on for quite a while. So kind of take me back to that. I want to go all the way back to your recruiting visit. You'd been in Hofheinz as a kid, right?
Yeah.
So you'd been around the program. You knew what it was.
Yeah.
You knew there were no one was there.
Yeah.
So what did they sell you on?
I just remember playing AAU, and we were playing against the Hoops. And that was probably one of the best teams in the country at that time. They had guys like De'Aaron Fox was with the Kings, Jared Vanderbilt was with the Jazz, a couple of other high-level players. Forgive me if I forget anyone, but I remember playing those guys and Coach Sampson just being front and center. And then after that game, every game he was front and center. And it's like every time I talked to him, it's like I learned something. I just felt like a genuine I don't want to say connection, but it's like a genuine energy between us. And I just felt like I believed in him because he believed in me. And that's pretty much where it went. It's pretty much where it took off from. And then on my recruiting visit, I just remember I didn't want to really take an official visit to Houston because it's like it was right up the street from my house. But
it's wasting a visit, right?
Yeah, but Coach Sampson, he was like, well, shit. If you want us to pick you up from Hobby, we'll pick you up from Hobby. And I was like, It is cool, man. I'll take an official. And my official visit was fun. There was a couple of guys who I played basketball with. One guy I went to high school with, who I looked up to, LJ Rose. He was my host. The guys and I, it was great energy, man, between the coaches, the players, everybody. It just felt like home, felt like family. So that's pretty much what drove my decision. And looking back, fast forward to now, however many years later, I'm glad that's what I went with. I'm glad I went with my gut feeling.
Yeah. So you basically started this machine when you were recruited and they were pitching you this. Did they say help us get to the tournament? Did they say help us win games in the tournament? Final Four? I mean, what was the pitch?
It was
of
more
the
so
vision?
It was more so not really saying that that we're going to get to a certain level. It's like, Galen, you're a winner, and look at my track record. We're going to win. So I never really losing was never really, I wouldn't say an option, but it's like it wasn't going to happen, So, but by the grace of God, Coach Sampson, he believed in me. He saw something in me, great leadership ability. So I'm just glad that whatever I was thinking at the time I made my decision, I'm glad that's what I was thinking, because I'm glad to have been part of something that's so cool now. It's so like it's Cougar basketball. You see it everywhere. But I remember when guys were telling me, like my cousin went to Houston, and I used to go to the rec with him and play basketball, and he'd be like, him and all his friends, they'd be like, bro, don't ever come here. Don't ever come here. Like, these guys suck. Like, don't ever. And it's just like, I'm glad I didn't listen to him. And it's like, I tell him that story to this day, and he's like, yeah, man, I'm glad you made your own decision. I'm like, yeah, me too.
Yeah, no kidding. You'd have set us back quite a bit. The guys on the current team, I've told people this, they look up to you. Emmanuel Sharp called you the mentor.
Yeah, that was cool.
Right? Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not 7 years difference in age, but they think of you in this way. And I'm sure you've been talked up in practice and film and everything else.
Yeah.
And probably been made into some great god now that you're not playing there, right?
Yeah.
But you were the spark. You were that first cog to get Houston moving in the right direction. And we're taping this on Sunday afternoon at 11 o'clock Monday morning. This team could be number one in the country.
Yeah.
So you started this. You were the spark. You were the cog. And now, maybe today's Sunday, we're taping this, but Monday morning at 11 o'clock, the AP will release the new poll, and it's likely that Houston's going to be number one in the country. It hasn't happened since 1983, since March of 83 was the last time it happened here. It seems like for the last 5 years that every time you turn around, there's a new first since 1983, right? Y'all were the first to win a tournament game, first to go to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four, top 10 ranking, top 5 ranking, now number 2, number 1. As a former player, as somebody that helped do this, what are your thoughts when you think about things like that?
Man, it really sends chills down my spine, because I know how hard that we worked, like our first year, second year, third year, fourth year, like how hard we worked, how hard the coaches pushed us. And just to see it all really kind of pay off. Just to have been a part of something where people like doubted us, people turned their backs on us. We had to beg people to come to games. And to see even seeing them ranked top 5 preseason, that's crazy. Because I remember, after we lost to Kentucky, they had interviewed me and one of our coaches, Coach Bilal, he's always talking about elevating the brand. And I remember after that game when we had lost, I remember I said the brand has been elevated, and it's just like the brand is still being elevated. It's still climbing. And for it to possibly be number 1, man, that just speaks millions of things to Coach Sampson, the program, the culture that's been established, the type of guys he recruits, the type of guys that he has on his staff himself. It's just, man, it couldn't happen to a more deserving group of people.
It's pretty cool. It's
No, it's actually crazy. Like it really
well, I
is
agree.
crazy.
Uh, Thinking about it, I sat in Hofheinz when it was empty. You sat there. You played in a pretty empty Hofheinz, right? And
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
and this is what yesterday was.
Yeah,
Holiday weekend, Thanksgiving weekend. Usually games are empty, but that
yeah.
was a
Vacant.
really great crowd and a crowd that there wasn't a lot to cheer about. You won. It got crazy
Yeah.
at the end, but it was ready to pop. It was ready to explode for anything. Juwan Roberts had a massive block in the first half, and everybody that place got loud.
Yeah.
But there was a nervousness because people knew what a win meant, and there's just a lot of things that were happening and going on. But to see that big a crowd on Thanksgiving weekend, I mean, that's because of guys like you. Y'all started that. It didn't come overnight.
No, I didn't.
You know, it's been a, and you're still seeing empty seats, and you're going to see it through the holidays. But hopefully, once conference play starts, you're going to see a lot of seats filled. I just can't imagine how awesome that is for you. How often are you in contact with Coach Sampson or anybody on staff?
We don't really talk all the time. It's usually like, congrats on the win and stuff like that. But it's like whenever I'm back home, I see those guys pretty much every day. So it's, it's always all love. It's always family. And it's like just so funny to me how like everybody's talking about the success that the guys are having and all these new great feats. But Coach Kellen, he just always talks about like whenever we used to have our individual workouts in alumni, it was just those are some rough days. And for it to be from then to now, it's just like, man, I just remember being in the alumni center working out. Like it's just like, man, and for us to be in Fertitta and all this good stuff that's happening, man, it is really a testament to hard work and not skipping any steps. Not taking any days off, being committed, dedicated, all that good stuff to the grind.
Okay. Let's flip gears and talk about this current team a little bit more in depth. They're 6-0. They beat Kent State on Saturday in an ugly, low-scoring, turnover-filled game. So about half the roster was dealing with illness, the flu. You know how that goes around a basketball team, and it makes its way all the way around.
Absolutely.
And it pretty much happens to every team every year, right? So what is it like playing? I wrote today about getting out of bed, like a normal person, even just getting out of bed to walk across the house with the flu is no fun. And y'all are going out there and playing 40 minutes for this guy who doesn't allow any loafing.
Yeah.
How hard is that?
It definitely poses its challenges for sure, but it's like once you go up and down a couple times, the game gets into you. You kind of forget about, like, the adrenaline takes over. You kind of forget about it, but it's like whenever it's a timeout and that adrenaline kind of settles down a little bit. It's like, damn, it's like you're really out of the groove, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That is. It's definitely tough to play through, but I'm glad our guys were able to battle through it and come out with a victory.
Is it a mental grind? Does it take a toll? Well, just playing sick, I feel like you would have to focus even harder.
Yeah, definitely is. It's like you kind of just gotta, it's like you gotta ultra focus, and it's just like it's because you're trying to overcome something that's within you, obviously, but like I said, I'm glad our guys were able to dig into whatever depths of culture that they have and come out with a win, man. It was ugly, but I take ugly wins too.
In a month, Kelvin said this yesterday, in a month, it's just going to be a win.
Exactly.
No one's going to remember how ugly it was. It was a win.
Exactly.
So you've seen a good bit of this team now. What are your impressions individually of guys, of what they're doing and growing into, based off of what you've seen, working out with these guys in the summer, in the spring, whatever?
I mean, pretty much Marcus, Jamal, Tremont, you pretty much know what you're going to get from those guys. Those guys are veterans. But J1, I feel like he's made a big step in terms of his offensive game. I feel like Terrence is going to be a big key to this team. Big fella, Big J Francis. I feel like he's going to be a very big part of this team, as well as Reggie as well. You know what you're going to get from him. Tough, hard-nosed guy. But I'm excited to see Emmanuel get this opportunity. I'm sure I just know whenever there's going to be a big game and it might be an issue that somebody might be in foul trouble and he's gonna play, and that'll be when he opens everybody's eyes. So I feel like this team is a real balanced team. You got a lot of good things going. It's like a good puzzle. It's like a lot of good pieces. So like I'm excited to once conference play hits, when we're rolling off, hitting all cylinders. I'm excited to see what this team is going to look like.
There's a lot of depth on this team, probably more
and
than
Ramon.
ever had.
I forgot Ramon.
Ramon Walker, Jarris Walker.
And Jarris, I feel like he had like a typical freshman game against Kent State where he just looked like a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like just working hard, being consistent. He's going to get that out of the system. And by the time conference play comes, I feel like this team is going to be exactly where it needs to be as a unit.
All right, in 2 minutes, you gave me like 12 questions I want to ask. So let's just fire through real quick. Emmanuel Sharp, you see a sharp shooter, right?
Absolutely.
What is it? You love his stroke. You love the way he shoots the ball.
Mm.
What is it that you specifically like about how he shoots it?
It's just a lot of wrist work. Like it's like a real soft touch. It's quick, and his range is to half court. And I feel like he's one of those guys who doesn't really have like a conscience. He just open shoot it, and those are the type of guys that you got to be fearful of. And those are the type of guys that whenever I was in college, those are the type of guys that gave us issues because they didn't care if they missed or made it. They were shooting regardless, and you had to respect it because they were able to make those shots.
That makes it a lot harder, huh?
Yeah, it's just like even with Marcus, he went 1 for 6, but it's like you think every shot is going in. So it's just like, and obviously the opposing team knows that they don't want him to get off. So it's just a unique gut to have in your favor.
Yeah. On Jawan, you told me about him early on, and I was like, all right. And I love the guy's personality. We're actually going to have him on here later in this show, but he's grown in a lot of ways. He had a little trouble yesterday with turnovers, but he still had a double-double. He had 4 blocks. He's growing into the 5 that this team needs.
Yeah. J1 is just a testament of the work. Like when I was there, I saw how much work he put in. So it's really, like I said, it's no surprise to me. It's more so surprising to everyone else. I saw all the hours, all the reps that he was logging in, and even after practice. So it's like for him to see him to have this type of success, it's about time. And it's just like he does everything else well on the basketball court. He has a high motor, and if he can get his offensive skill set to match his motor, oh man, that's a scary sight. That is a scary sight.
All right, and earlier in the fall, you told me you discovered JBA Francis. You made him. So tell us that story.
I didn't make him, but I just remember he went to Westbury Christian, and obviously that's my former high school, and they were playing in a preseason tournament. So the head coaches can't coach in the preseason tournament for whatever reason. So they have
That's weird.
Yeah, so they have to find someone else to coach it. So it was me, a buddy of mine who I played with in high school, and then myself. He was the head coach. I was the assistant. And I just remember this first time seeing him, I'm just like, who is this kid? He jumping, getting rebounds, he can get into like 12 feet. I'm like, who is he? Hands, his hands go down to his knees. I'm like, as soon as I left that little preseason tournament, I called coach. I forget which coach. I think it was Coach Brooks. I called one of those guys immediately, and I said, one of y'all need to get to Westbury Christian and see who this kid is, because he has a bright future. And lo and behold, here he is in a Houston uniform having an impact on winning. So it's like I'm glad my suggestion, it didn't fall on deaf ears.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Right.
And one more about freshmen. So Kelvin has been harping on the freshman inconsistencies. He said that the best ability that a freshman can have is dependability. Jarris has seemed to have a great game and then disappears, and then another great game and then struggles. He struggled against Kent State rebounding. He kind of passed up some open looks that, frankly, everybody in the arena thought he should shoot.
Yeah.
How do you get past that? How do you finally start shooting those instead of being tentative and passing them?
Just staying consistent. He's 6 games in. He's still, if he was the best version of himself right now, that probably wouldn't be good. So
Right.
I feel like it's good that he's still learning, and he's just going to continue to learn and continue to get better. And he's going to eventually find his stride, figure out how to be effective, figure out something that he can hang his hat on night in and night out. So I'm not really too much worried about Jarris. Not too much worried at all. He's going. Like I said, whenever this team starts conference play and they get into the February, early March, everybody's going to be where they need to be in order for our team to be successful. I believe that.
Yeah, and it's not like other situations where a 5-star comes in and you need him on every single night.
He doesn't have to be the guy. And it's like, I guess that's the kind of the beauty of the situation. It's like you're not solely dependent on him because with freshmen, I think back to when I was 18. I couldn't tell you where my mind was. So it's just like nowadays with all this new stuff and all this everything else is going on, it's like there's no idea and there's no telling where an 18-year-old kid's head is. But knowing Coach, I know his head is gonna be where it needs to be whenever it needs to be there for sure.
For sure. All right. Thank you, Galen. That's our senior foreign correspondent, Galen Robinson. And you're in, how do you say it? Is Chalon?
Chalon-sur-Saône, France.
So that was the Godfather, Galen Robinson, and talk about a guy who was here. He was the building block to start this whole program, and he still is dialed in and is interested in this team and rooting for this team as much as anybody else. He has information, inside access to things that you and I don't get, and he's going to help us out throughout the season. He's going to do player interviews with us. And one of those is coming up right now that was taped before he went to France. This is him and Juwan Roberts for HOUNIL.com. You can subscribe to HOUNIL.com for as little as $20 a month. That money goes to help student athletes. And this isn't $1 million things. This is building blocks of a program, of player retention, of helping players out, of helping them get their families to games. When they make a tournament run, the school doesn't pay for that. The school doesn't pay for lodging for families. You get tickets from the NCAA, but you don't get anything else. And it's up to U of H fans to help out, to bridge that gap. And HOUNIL is the easiest way to do that. So go to HOUNIL.com, hit the subscribe button at the top. You can also do that on YouTube or your streaming podcast platform if you want. But HOUNIL is how you actually help out and help these guys make a difference for your team, your #1 Houston Cougars. All right, Galen and Juwan.
Yeah, my bad. So one thing that I can attest to is like Coach Kellen, like his development with our format. Mm-hmm. So how does Kellen get you better, and what do you think is the recipe?
Believing in yourself. More reps. Just knowing what it takes. He tells you like he believes in us more than we believe in ourselves sometimes. Like, he wants us to go to the extreme and not let up. And I ain't gonna lie, sometimes, you know, last year, the year before, you know, I get a little down on myself. Playing time, certain times. Sometimes when I'm not going this hard, he'll get on me. And I get a little irritated, get a little annoyed. And, you know, he always says, like, Juan, if you only know how good you are, that you just limiting yourself from reaching to your highest point. And I've seen that sometimes because, you know, I can agree sometimes, like, when I get tired, I sometimes pull a rope. You know, I give in sometimes. But that was, you know, when I was younger, 2-3 years from now. But as I get older now, I just feel like once you get tired, you know, that's when you should push through it. Cause you can't let up, bro.
Yeah.
He just tells you, like, you just
drilling in you, bro.
Yeah.
Drilling. That's crazy. And it's like, bro, I be seeing the pause that.
Oh,
My bad. But it's like, but what I'm saying is like, bro, just like even yesterday after practice, just seeing the reps, and it was a couple times. I think it was trying to make the last one. I was like, damn, right, I missed another rep. It's just like continuous, and it's like that's the secret, being willing to put in the reps, even through like when you might not feel like it, when you might be having an off day, still being willing to put in that work. That's how you get whenever it's a packed out arena. We in the March Madness Sweet 16, the ball in your hands, on a prayer, it travels it cash. It's like y'all don't even know how much went into this moment, how many repetitions went into this moment of me making this shot.
It ain't no like, okay, we're gonna move on and then come back to this. Like, no, if you in this spot and you gotta make 6-8, you gotta make 6-8.
Yeah.
He ain't letting you, okay, you can do the spot tomorrow.
Yeah.
Next spot, like, you gonna stay there. If you gotta make a certain amount of free throws, like, say you gotta go 42-50, and you go 41-50, you start over.
Yeah.
And it's you be like, God dang. But that's what comes with greatness, you know, you gotta put in the work. So that's what I feel like Coach Kellen does. You know, he just pushes you to a limit that sometimes you don't want to get to, but you just got to get there.
I got a story. It might be a little lengthy, but it's like I always felt like Coach Sampson knew the right way to how to get me going.
Right.
And one thing that he knows that I hate is somebody telling me I can't do something. Right. So I remember my junior year, I had an injury, and it caused me to just overthink everything. I completely 100% doubted myself, bro. So I remember one time we were playing Tulsa at TSU, and they sagged so far off me, and I did not want to shoot it because I just did not want to miss.
Right.
And fast forward a year later, like after the season, bro, like I took off my 2 weeks. I was making 1,000 shots every night, 7 nights in a row, fingers bleeding and everything. So then the next year we played Tulsa again at home in Fertitta, and one of the kids, I think I hit 2 threes that game, but one of the kids, that player's name was Jariah Horn. And I remember he closed out short, and I was kind of far behind the line. I was like, let it rip, cash. He contested, and I mean, I was just looking at him like on some, bro, you don't even understand how much work I put in just to be able to have the confidence to take that shot, bro.
That's how I feel my 3-ball too. But I feel like once I hit that, you got respect it now.
It's gonna be a long night for you, brother.
Pick you apart now.
So,
yeah, I look good.
So that wraps it up. I'm here Monday night at the Fertitta Center. We just saw practice. We just got interviews with Jamal Shead, with other players. We're going to give you some of that now and then roll out. And we'll see it again Tuesday night with Norfolk State at 7 o'clock. I think it's going to be a big crowd. That's Norfolk State on the court right now. I don't know if you heard the buzzer. I guess we'll see, right? They're doing their shoot around. So here we go, Jamal Shead.
You know, it's exciting. It's a good feeling, but, you know, still got a lot of games to play. It's really early in the year, so, you know, still got stuff to look forward to.
Jamal, what was the message? He joked, well, I don't know if it was a joke, but he told us today he'd probably tell y'all, but then he would focus on those 23 turnovers that you guys had.
Oh, yeah, first thing we did coming to practice was run for those turnovers. But, you know, he embraced it. He told us to embrace it, but we still got to look forward to tomorrow.
You know, how amazing is this to be #1 in America?
You know, it's really mostly for our school and our fans. You know, giving them something to look forward to, giving them something to really cherish. You know, it's mostly for them.
When you saw it, what did you think? What were your emotions?
Like 2-1. You know, it's a good thing to move up. That's what you want in the world. You know, we hope to maintain this position. That's what we look forward to.
He calls.
When you think about you guys have now done something that's never been done here at University of Houston, at least in your guys' lifetime.
You know, it's just on all those backs of all the guys that's been here before. You know, they've built this culture up. All we're doing is maintaining it. So, and we're getting a little bit of recognition now for it.
Coach has said that he's called this a rental, so to speak. Does it help that your team is already such that he doesn't allow you to look ahead? You know, this could catch some teams off guard and, you know, it'd be a bad thing. But do you think you guys mentally, you know, he prepares y'all just, you know, for something like this?
I think we're mentally prepared for it just because he doesn't really pay too much attention to it. You know, we could lose it at any time. Anytime, hopefully, we keep it, but we could lose it tomorrow, the next day, the day after that. We don't even have to lose to lose it, but, you know, it can go at any time.